During my driving test, the instructor suddenly grabbed the wheel and said, "Drive to the police station." The DMV parking lot around us erupted into chaos as 3 black SUVs screeched into formation, blocking every exit. Men in dark suits poured out, shouting orders into radios while pointing directly at our car. My hands froze on the steering wheel as Miss Hendricks transformed from cheerful driving instructor to something else entirely. "Natalie, listen carefully. Your life changed the moment you walked into that DMV building 30 minutes ago." She ripped off her DMV badge and pulled out a federal ID I'd never seen before. "I'm Special Agent Rebecca Hendricks, U.S. Marshals Service. You are Isabella Winters, not Natalie Foster, and the most dangerous crime family in America just found you." The radio on her belt crackled with urgent voices, package compromised, and immediate extraction required, and hostile surveillance confirmed. My brain couldn't process what she was saying. I'd known Miss Hendricks for exactly 31 minutes. We'd practiced parallel parking and 3-point turns. She'd complimented my signaling technique. "That's impossible," I whispered, watching more agents surround our vehicle. "I'm Natalie Foster. I live at 247 Oak Street. My parents are David and Susan Foster. I go to Lincoln High School." Agent Hendricks started the car herself, her hands overlapping mine on the wheel. "Drive exactly where I tell you, and I'll explain everything once we're secure." Through the windshield, I saw agents with assault rifles creating a protective corridor toward the street. "The men in those SUVs aren't here to hurt you today. They're here to confirm you're alive and report back to their boss." My foot found the accelerator as we rolled forward through the human shield of federal agents. "Report back to who?" The question came out strangled as I tried to process uniforms, badges, weapons, radios, all focused on protecting me from something I didn't understand. "Vincent Castellano was released from federal prison yesterday at 6:47 a.m. after serving 8 years for murder and racketeering. You are the daughter of the man who put him there." Agent Hendricks guided my hands as we turned onto the main road, a convoy of unmarked vehicles falling in behind us. The police station came into view, and I realized this wasn't a driving test anymore. It was an extraction. 8 years ago, your father witnessed Castellano execute his business partner behind a construction site in Hartford, Connecticut. Your father's testimony didn't just send Castellano to prison, it destroyed his entire organization, seized $53 million in assets, and got 14 of his associates convicted. We pulled into the police station lot as more federal vehicles surrounded us. Castellano blamed your father for destroying his empire. Now he's out, and he wants revenge on the family that cost him everything. Inside the police station, Agent Hendricks led me past uniformed officers to a secure conference room where my world completely shattered. 2 people sat at a metal table, and the moment I saw them, something deep in my chest recognized them before my brain could process why. The woman had my exact green eyes and the same curly hair I'd always thought came from Susan Foster. The man had the dimple in his chin that I saw in my mirror every morning. "Isabella," the woman whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We've been waiting 8 years to see you again." "I don't understand," I said, backing toward the door. "Who are you people?" Agent Hendricks closed the door behind us and gestured toward chairs around the table. "Isabella, meet your real parents, Michael and Grace Winters." The words hit me like physical blows. These strangers were claiming to be my parents, but I had parents. David and Susan Foster had raised me, loved me, taught me to ride a bike, helped me with homework, celebrated every birthday and Christmas morning for as long as I could remember. Michael Winters pulled out a wallet and showed me photos I'd never seen. Me as a baby with dark hair instead of the blonde I remembered having, learning to walk in a kitchen I didn't recognize, blowing out candles on a birthday cake decorated with princesses instead of the dinosaurs I thought I'd always loved. "We have documentation of every day of your life until you were 8 years old," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "School records from Jefferson Elementary in Hartford, medical records from Dr. Patricia Willis, photos from birthday parties, Christmas mornings, family vacations you don't remember." Grace Winters opened a shoebox that made my breath catch. Inside were report cards with my real name, school photos showing a little girl who looked like me but lived a life I couldn't recall, letters I'd apparently written to my parents when I was learning cursive. "You drew this picture of our family when you were 6, she said, showing me crayon artwork depicting stick figures labeled Mama, Daddy, and Bella standing in front of a house with blue shutters. I stared at the drawing, searching for any spark of memory, but found nothing. "Where are David and Susan?" I asked, my voice barely audible. They were the only parents I'd ever known, and the idea that they weren't my real family felt like someone was erasing my entire identity. Agent Hendricks sat down across from me with a thick folder. "David and Susan Foster are U.S. Marshals who volunteered for the most difficult assignment in the Witness Protection Program, raising another family's child as their own, knowing they'd eventually have to give that child back." She opened the folder to reveal official documents, contracts, psychological evaluations, all related to my placement with the Foster family. "They love you genuinely," Grace Winters said, reaching across the table but stopping short of touching my hand. "We asked them to love you the way we would have if we could have stayed with you. Every bedtime story they read, every scraped knee they bandaged, every parent-teacher conference they attended, they were acting as our surrogates." She pulled out a letter, handwritten and worn from being folded and unfolded countless times. "This is what we wrote the night we had to give you up. We wanted them to understand how precious you were to us." As I read their words about loving me from a distance and trusting strangers to keep me safe, Agent Hendricks explained the logistics of what had happened. "Your real parents were relocated to Oregon under the names Paul and Margaret Thompson. They've been working in a lumber mill and a diner for 8 years, receiving monthly reports about your progress but never allowed to make contact." She showed me surveillance photos, Michael and Grace at their jobs in their small apartment, always looking older and sadder than the people sitting across from me now. "We celebrated every birthday from a distance," Grace said, tears flowing freely. "Every year on September 23rd, we'd have a little cake and talk about what you might be doing, what you might wish for, how much you'd grown." She showed me photos from their sparse apartment in Oregon, a small table with a birthday cake and 2 candles, one for each year they'd missed. "David and Susan would send us pictures and videos sometimes. Your first violin recital, the science fair where you won 3rd place, the day you got braces. Michael leaned forward, his hands shaking as he spoke. We've been living our parenthood secondhand for 8 years, experiencing your childhood through reports and photographs while working factory jobs and pretending to be people we're not. He showed me more photos. Christmas mornings in their tiny apartment where they'd wrap presents for a daughter who wasn't there, graduation ceremonies they watched from afar, achievements they celebrated alone. We never missed a milestone. We just couldn't be there for any of them. Agent Hendricks checked her watch and gathered papers. We need to move to a secure facility within the hour. Isabella, everything you've known about your life is about to change. She explained that not only were my parents not who I thought they were, but my entire identity would have to be reconstructed again. Vincent Castellanos' organization has been watching you for weeks. They know where you live, where you go to school, who your friends are. Natalie Foster has to disappear completely. The magnitude of what she was saying hit me like a succession of physical blows. What about graduation? What about my friends? What about my job at the bookstore? What about college applications? Everything I'd been working toward, every relationship I'd built, every plan I'd made was about to vanish. Agent Hendricks' expression softened slightly. Your education will continue under a new identity. Your friends will be told you moved suddenly due to a family emergency. Your job will think you quit without notice. It's not ideal, but it's the only way to keep you alive. Grace Winters reached into her purse and pulled out a phone. We know this is overwhelming, but we'd like you to see something. She played a video that made my heart stop. It was David and Susan Foster, sitting in what looked like a hotel room, speaking directly to the camera. Isabella, if you're watching this, it means the day we've all been preparing for has finally arrived, David said, his voice gentle but strained. We want you to know that every moment we've spent as your parents has been the greatest privilege of our lives. Susan continued, tears in her eyes. We've loved you as if you were our own daughter because, in every way that matters, you are. But we always knew we were borrowing you for Michael and Grace. She looked directly into the camera, as if she could see me through the screen. Your real parents have sacrificed everything to keep you safe. They've spent 8 years trusting us to love you the way they would have, and we hope we've done them proud. The video showed them in their empty house, packing boxes, preparing to disappear just as I was about to be reunited with my biological family. They recorded this 6 months ago when we first received intelligence that Castellano might be released early, Agent Hendricks explained. They wanted you to understand that leaving you again wasn't their choice. The video continued with David and Susan sharing memories from my childhood, favorite moments they'd treasured, lessons they'd tried to teach me, dreams they had for my future. We hope you remember the good times we had together, and we hope you can forgive us for the lies we had to tell to keep you safe. Michael and Grace showed me more documentation from my early childhood. Report cards from Jefferson Elementary showing a little girl named Isabella who excelled in reading and mathematics, medical records detailing routine checkups and vaccinations, photos from school plays and field trips that existed in a life I couldn't remember. The psychological team that worked with you when you were 8 was incredibly skilled, Grace explained. They didn't erase your memories completely. They layered new ones over the old ones, creating a false foundation for your new identity. But some of your core personality traits were too strong to alter, Michael added. Your love of music, your curiosity about astronomy, your kindness toward others, your determination to succeed in school. Those aspects of Isabella Winters were allowed to continue in Natalie Foster because suppressing them completely would have caused psychological damage. He showed me videos from my early childhood. A 5-year-old me playing a tiny violin, a 6-year-old me pointing excitedly at stars through a telescope, a 7-year-old me reading books far above my grade level. Agent Hendricks spread out travel documents on the table. Within the next 3 hours, all 4 of you will be transported to a secure facility in Montana, where you'll spend several weeks planning your new life together. She explained that David and Susan Foster were already at a separate facility, being debriefed and prepared for their own new identities. They'll disappear completely, for their safety and yours. Vincent Castellanos' organization has long memories and unlimited resources for tracking people down. The secure facility turned out to be a ranch house in the mountains where we spent a month learning to be a family again. It was like the world's strangest family reunion, with federal agents monitoring our every conversation and psychologists helping us navigate the emotional complexity of reuniting with people I couldn't remember loving. This is unprecedented, Dr. Sarah Coleman, our family therapist, explained during our first session. We've never had a case where a child was separated from their biological parents for so long during such crucial developmental years. Michael and Grace approached our reunion with incredible patience and understanding. We don't expect you to call us mom and dad right away, Grace said during one of our evening conversations. We understand that those titles belong to David and Susan in your heart. We're just grateful to have you back and to be part of your life going forward. They enrolled in intensive family therapy specifically designed for witness protection reunifications, learning how to connect with a teenager they'd last known as an 8-year-old child. The hardest part was processing the fact that every meaningful relationship in my life had been built on a foundation of lies. My best friend Lily, who I'd shared everything with since 6th grade, my violin teacher Mr. Petrov, who'd helped me develop my musical skills, my guidance counselor Mrs. Walsh, who'd been helping me plan for college, none of them knew who I really was. The people who love you love the real you, Grace kept reminding me. Your personality, your humor, your talents, your dreams, those things weren't manufactured. Those are genuinely Isabella Winters. Agent Hendricks visited daily during our stay, briefing us on Castellanos' activities and the ongoing threat assessment. We've intercepted communications suggesting his organization is actively hunting for you. The order comes directly from Castellano himself. He's 73 years old and in declining health, but his desire for revenge hasn't diminished. She showed us surveillance photos of known associates conducting what appeared to be systematic searches through databases, social media, and public records. They're looking for any trace of the Winters family. During our second week at the facility, I started having vivid dreams about places I'd never been but somehow recognized. A house with blue shutters and a tire swing, a kitchen with yellow walls where someone made pancakes shaped like animals, a bedroom with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. Those might be genuine memories starting to surface, Dr. Coleman explained. Sometimes the psychological barriers weaken when people feel safe enough to remember. Michael and Grace showed showed me photos that matched my dreams exactly, confirming that my subconscious was beginning to recover pieces of my original life. 3 weeks into our stay, Agent Hendricks received intelligence that changed everything. Vincent Castellano suffered a massive stroke 2 days ago and is currently in a medically induced coma, she announced during our morning briefing. His doctors aren't optimistic about his recovery. However, she cautioned that his organization was still operational under his nephew's leadership. The threat level has decreased significantly, but we're maintaining full protection protocols until we're certain the danger has passed. By our 4th week at the facility, we'd developed something resembling a family dynamic. Michael helped me with mathematics homework from my correspondence courses, while Grace and I cooked dinner together, her hands guiding mine as she taught me recipes I'd apparently loved as a child. You used to help me make these cookies every Sunday, she said, tears in her eyes as we rolled dough together. You'd always eat more cookie dough than actually made it into the oven. Slowly, carefully, we were building new memories on top of the old ones. The psychological evaluation process was extensive and sometimes brutal. Dr. Coleman worked with me individually to help process the trauma of learning my entire identity was constructed, while also facilitating family sessions to help us navigate the complex emotions of reunion. Isabella is experiencing a unique form of identity crisis, she explained to Michael and Grace during one of their private sessions. She's grieving the loss of one set of parents while trying to connect with another set she doesn't remember. This is uncharted territory in terms of psychological adjustment. 6 months after the driving test that changed everything, we were relocated to Washington State under new identities. I became Emma Sullivan, Michael and Grace became Robert and Linda Sullivan, and we moved to Spokane where they'd secured teaching positions at a community college. We're finally using our education degrees again after 8 years of manual labor, Michael said on our first morning in our new house. It feels like we're reclaiming pieces of our real selves along with getting you back. The transition to Emma Sullivan was more challenging than becoming Natalie Foster had been, partly because I was older and more aware of what I was losing. Starting junior year at a new high school meant leaving behind friends, teachers, activities, and opportunities I'd worked years to build. Keep the lies simple and consistent, Agent Hendricks advised during one of our preparation sessions. Emma Sullivan moved from Phoenix because her mother got a job opportunity. Her father consults for educational institutions. They moved around frequently during her childhood, which explains why she's quiet about her past. My new school counselor, Mrs. Franklin, helped me navigate the academic challenges of transferring with altered transcripts and carefully constructed records. We see students with complicated backgrounds sometimes, she assured me during our first meeting. Military families, diplomatic families, families escaping difficult situations. You're not as unusual as you might think. She helped me maintain my academic standing while working around the limitations of my false identity, ensuring I could still pursue my college goals despite the disruption. The social aspects of starting over were exhausting in ways I hadn't anticipated. Making friends while maintaining elaborate lies about your past requires constant vigilance. I had to remember that Emma Sullivan was from Phoenix, not Connecticut or Millbrook, that her family moved frequently because of her father's work, that she was quiet about childhood memories because they were associated with too many different places. Every conversation was a minefield where one slip could potentially expose our entire cover. Grace and Michael worked incredibly hard to rebuild our relationship while respecting my attachment to David and Susan. We're not trying to replace them in your heart, Grace said during one of our family therapy sessions. We're trying to find our own place alongside them. They showed endless patience with my mood swings, my grief over losing my previous life, and my struggle to accept them as parents. We understand that we're essentially strangers to you right now, Michael acknowledged. We're willing to take as much time as you need to feel comfortable with us. During my senior year, the stress of maintaining my false identity while preparing for college applications became overwhelming. What happens when I turn 18? I asked Agent Hendricks during one of our quarterly check-ins. Do I get to choose my own identity then? Or am I stuck as Emma Sullivan forever? She explained that my protection status would be reassessed based on ongoing threat levels, but that some form of identity protection would likely be permanent. Vincent Castellano's organization has a long institutional memory. Even if he dies, his associates might continue pursuing his vendettas. The college application process was particularly complicated because Emma Sullivan's academic record had to be carefully constructed to match my actual achievements while avoiding any connections to my previous identities. We've arranged for you to apply to schools that participate in the Federal Witness Protection Education Program, Agent Hendricks explained. They're accustomed to working with students who have unusual circumstances and limited verifiable history. The idea that my entire future would be shaped by the need to maintain false identities was both depressing and surreal. 18 months after our reunion, we received news that Vincent Castellano had died in federal custody, never having regained consciousness after his stroke. This significantly reduces the threat level, Agent Hendricks told us during an emergency briefing. However, his nephew Anthony has assumed control of the organization and has made statements suggesting he intends to honor his uncle's commitments. She explained that while the immediate danger had decreased, we would continue living under assumed identities indefinitely as a precaution. By my graduation day, I had mixed feelings about the life we'd built as the Sullivan family. Michael and Grace had become real parents to me, not replacing David and Susan, but creating new bonds based on our shared experience of loss and reconstruction. We're proud of who you've become despite everything you've been through, Grace said as we prepared for the ceremony. Isabella, Natalie, Emma, whoever you choose to be next, you're a remarkable young woman who's survived something most people couldn't imagine. The driving test that never finished became a metaphor for my entire life, a routine moment that suddenly veered in an unexpected direction, requiring me to navigate unknown territory while someone else controlled the wheel. 3 years later, I finally got my license under my new identity, but I think about that day every time I'm behind the wheel. Agent Hendricks had grabbed the steering steering wheel and changed my entire trajectory, forcing me to drive toward a truth I wasn't prepared to handle. Now I'm 20, a college junior studying criminal justice at Washington State University under my fifth identity. I became Sarah Mitchell when I turned 18 and entered the Adult Witness Protection Program, complete with new documentation and another carefully constructed background. My professors have no idea that their student has firsthand experience with organized crime, federal protection services, and identity reconstruction. When we study cases involving witness protection and family relocations, I have to bite my tongue to avoid sharing insights that would raise uncomfortable questions. I've learned to love people while knowing I might have to leave them, to build friendships while protecting dangerous secrets, and to find stability in a life designed around impermanence. The most challenging part is dating, trying to build intimate relationships while keeping massive secrets about my past. My boyfriend Tyler thinks my family moved around frequently because of my father's consulting work, that I'm quiet about childhood memories because we never stayed anywhere long enough to form lasting attachments. It's not entirely false, but it's not entirely true either. Michael and Grace, now Robert and Linda Sullivan, have found their way back to teaching and seem genuinely happy for the first time since I've known them. We lost 8 years with you, but we gained a daughter who's stronger and more resilient than we ever could have imagined, Michael told me during our last family dinner before I left for college. Isabella, Natalie, Emma, Sarah, whoever you become next, you'll always be our daughter, and we'll always be proud of the woman you're becoming. The driving test that changed everything taught me that identity is both more fragile and more resilient than most people realize. Names, addresses, family histories, even memories can be altered or replaced, but core personality traits, values, and the capacity for love seem to transcend whatever identity you're wearing. I'm still learning who Sarah Mitchell is, building her from pieces of all my previous selves, creating something new from the fragments of lives I've lived to stay alive. Sometimes late at night when I can't sleep, I wonder if David and Susan Foster think about me too, if they miss the daughter they raised but never really owned, if they're proud of the woman I'm becoming under names they'll never know. I hope they understand that every lesson they taught me, every moment of love they gave me, every sacrifice they made to keep me safe, lives on in whoever I become next. The driving test may have ended abruptly, but the journey they started with me continues, one careful mile at a time.